Here we are one more time, my brothers and sisters in Christ. Welcome once again to another Living Hope Today study. Today we find ourselves in Genesis chapter 30, and I have a little confession to make. You know, when we're talking about who's having babies with Jacob and how the 12 tribes of Israel began, oftentimes I look at these verses and think, well, this is just another list of something progressing as God would have it. But today, there's something very interesting embedded in the text that if you're not careful, we could just easily blow by it and not understand. And because of that, we're just going to take a minute and look at it a little more closely as we go through. But what you'll see today is Rachel, the one who's barren, the one who really, really wants children. She tries to fix the problem herself. It doesn't really say that, but then it kind of does. Let me show you what I mean. You remember this whole episode of Jacob having children started when Jacob was given Leah first instead of Rachel, the one he loved, and we were told at the end of that little vignette that Jacob lay with Rachel also and that he loved Rachel more than Leah. There's been this heartfelt thing for Leah all through the narrative that she's been unwanted. She's been unappreciated. Well, by the time you get to verse 14 of chapter 30, we read this. During the wheat harvest, Reuben. Who's Reuben? Well, he's the firstborn between Jacob and Leah. You know, they've been having kids a lot. I think Reuben's probably 5 or 6 years old at this point. During the wheat harvest, Reuben went out into the fields and found some mandrake plants, which he brought to his mother Leah. And Rachel said to Leah, "Please give me some of your son's mandrakes." Now, do you know what a mandrake is? I didn't know what a mandrake is, but let's keep going in the text. We're going to get to it here in a second. The text moves forward to say, "But she said to her, 'Wasn't it enough that you took away my husband?'" Again, here we go. The rivalry. Leah's the one that's not loved. She resents Rachel. Rachel's the one that is loved. And so Leah's saying, "Hey, you took away my husband." And now she says, "Will you take my son's mandrakes too?" And so Rachel strikes a deal. "Very well," Rachel said. "He can sleep with you tonight in return for your son's mandrakes." What's that telling us? Well, it tells us a couple things. Maybe it tells us that Jacob had basically moved in with Rachel and was ignoring Leah, because Leah obviously feels abandoned at some level here. But then again, here comes this idea of mandrakes. What is a mandrake? I started looking for this. It's called a Mandragora officinarum. Yeah, that's a load to say. But that's what it looks like. That's what a mandrake looks like. You say, well, so what? Reuben went out during the wheat harvest and he found some of those and he pulled them out. Well, it turns out the mandrake has made a comeback in modern culture through the novels of Harry Potter. The mandrake has superstitious, supernatural claims. Some people call it the devil's apple. There's a little piece of fruit in there that's absolutely dangerous. All right? I mean, just to think about it, as I looked it up, it says it was used as a soporific, a sleep-inducing and pain-killing plant for many hundreds of years. Mandrake is a powerful narcotic, emetic, sedative, and hallucinogen. It poisons. Its poisons can easily lead to death. Why does Rachel want a mandrake from Reuben through Leah? What's going on here? Well, the more research you do on this, it turns out the mandrake plant was considered in ancient Near Eastern cultures to have associations with fertility, with love, with reproduction. Its root resembles a human figure, and which may have contributed to its reputation as a fertility enhancer or aphrodisiac. So Rachel's not just hungry and deciding, oh, gee, Reuben found some food, I think I'll have some. No, Rachel's involved in trying to, maybe superstitiously, in fact, I saw a video of a guy eating a mandrake. He took such great care to get all the seeds out of it because he knew he would be violently sick if he ate those seeds. But I was surprised to find so much about the mandrake online these days. In the end, Rachel might have thought that this was her solution. Yeah, sure, she'd been praying to God, but God hasn't been moving. Everybody else has been having babies but her. Okay, maybe she's out there now saying, these mandrakes are my ticket. This is how I'm going to have a baby. I need to move forward and try to solve my problem for myself. Have you ever tried to do that? Well, here Rachel is, under the surface of the story, pursuing that based on what Middle Eastern opinions were of the mandrake plant. Okay, back to Genesis. So when Jacob came in from the fields that evening, Leah went out to meet him. All right, I just struck a deal with Rachel. Hey, you have to sleep with me. I have hired you. That sounds really romantic, doesn't it? I hired you with my son's mandrakes. So, of course, Jacob, what choice does he have? He slept with her that night. And here we go again. God listened to Leah. Okay, now watch. In verse 17, what do we see? That the text is written to make sure we understand that God is the source of the new pregnancy, that it's not mandrakes and it's not anything else. It's God himself involved in the human realm to say, I want another son from Leah. I'm going to facilitate it, make it happen. God listens to Leah. She became pregnant and bore Jacob a fifth son. So in terms of the battle between Leah and Rachel, it's 5-0. Wow. 5-0. Rachel has to be suffering. Leah said, God has rewarded me for giving my maidservant to my husband. So she named him Issachar. All right, we'll talk more about that in a moment. But notice, Rachel gave her maidservant to Jacob, Zilpah, right? We'll cover that in a second. But she attributes her pregnancy to God's power. It's rewarded. God's rewarding her. But not because I prayed and asked God to help me, no, but because I gave my maidservant to my husband. Again, do you see the tension in this? That maybe that wasn't what she really wanted to do, but now she feels like she's rewarded because she did it? Well, Rachel's about to go 6-0, or I should say 0-6 for her. Leah's 6-0. Leah conceived again and bore Jacob a sixth son. Man, it's got to start to hurt for Rachel, doesn't it? Then Leah said, God has presented me with a precious gift. Notice again, God is the one responsible for the new life. This time my husband will treat me with honor because I have borne him sons. Now, isn't that an insightful line? I'm going to have honor from my husband. I'm going to be treated well from my husband. He's going to love me. Why? Because I've borne him 6 sons. So she named him Zebulun. Again, Leah's quest to be acceptable, to be loved by Jacob is a thread that runs through this whole story. And God's not done with Leah yet. Watch this. Sometime later, she gave birth, whoops, wrong button. She gave birth to a daughter named Dinah. All right, now Dinah doesn't really play a big role in this current story, but I believe the author's bringing Dinah to our attention now because of what's going to happen in chapter 34, and we need to just wait for that. But I believe if we do our homework, we'll find that Jacob has more than one daughter. But here, Dinah is mentioned, and she is the daughter of Leah. Again, Leah. In terms of having babies, Leah's 7-0 when it comes to this rivalry she has with Rachel. All right. Then God remembered Rachel. Here we go. So the mandrakes really aren't any sort of solution for Rachel. She tried her best through the mandrakes, but we have seen that years have passed, no babies. Now in 22, God remembers Rachel. God not only remembers her, but he listens to her, which helps me think that Rachel continuously prays about this. God, please solve this problem for me. I want to have children with Jacob. Okay, so God listens to her. What does he do? He opens her womb. Again, notice how the text drives us to the conclusion that God is the one that's giving life. This isn't about what anybody wants or how they can scheme to fix these problems on their own. This is about God moving in his timing, in his way, to produce the children that he has foreknown. Interesting. So Rachel has a baby. She became pregnant. She gave birth to a son. What's her response to that? God has taken away my disgrace. I'm sure we cannot overstate the relief that Rachel feels to produce a child. And it's not just a child, it's a son. And it's not just a son, it's a son named Joseph. And we'll see Joseph becomes one of the main characters in Genesis as we continue forward. She named him Joseph and said, "May the Lord add to me another son." In other words, I'm so thrilled that I had Joseph, but I don't want to stop here. Let's keep going. So just by way of review, before we go our ways today to serve the Lord as he's called us, I want to go back through this lineage. We start with Jacob. Jacob is given Leah as a wife before he's given Rachel because Laban tricked him. Do you remember? And out of that union, we have Reuben. He's named Reuben. It means, behold, a son. Then she has Simeon. That means God is heard. Then she has Levi. The meaning at the root of Levi is attached. Remember that Levi is the son who, all these sons become tribes of Israel. Levi is the tribe that will produce the priesthood. Okay, and then Judah. His name means praise. Judah is the one who is the forefather of the Messiah. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Judah. It'll go all the way through King David, all the way to Jesus. That's the line of Judah. He'll be mentioned many more times in Scripture. So Leah has 4 sons in the narrative right away. Rachel can't take it, so she gives her maidservant Bilhah to Jacob. Bilhah produces Dan. He's named Vindicated. Naphtali comes next. He's named My Struggle. All right. Leah doesn't like that, so she gives her maidservant to Jacob as well. The maidservant's name is Zilpah. Zilpah has Gad, which is a name that means fortune. Asher means happy. All right. And now look at this. In the narrative we just read, Leah has Issachar, which means reward, and she has Zebulun, which means dwelling, like God or Jacob might dwell with her now. Okay, and then the narrative, what? We're told after that Leah and Jacob have Dinah, a daughter. Wow. You notice who's not on the chart yet, right? Here comes Rachel. Finally, last. Just imagine her heart as she watches, what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 sons. Well, the mandrakes didn't do it, but God did do it. She has Joseph, and he's a gift from God. That's the name. That's what it means, or it's an adding of God. She wants more, right? Okay. Benjamin hasn't been mentioned yet, but I'm going to put him up here because we're not going to really come back to this chart about the patriarchs and how Jacob's line spreads into the 12 tribes of Israel. But there they are, all 12. We won't really get to Benjamin until we get to chapter 35. As Rachel is going to die giving birth to Benjamin, she calls him the son of my distress. Jacob calls him the son of the south. And the reason that is Benjamin, the 12th, he is the only one out of the 12 that is born in Canaan land. The rest are born up north in Haran, but Benjamin is born in the south. This is how God saw fit in history to bring forth his Messiah and to keep his promise to Abraham that all nations will be blessed through his line. But I want you to just step back today for a second and say, God, am I trying to fix my own problems with my own ingenuity? It never works. It never works. Jesus is the vine, we're the branches. Without him, we can do how much? Nothing. God requires total dependence and submission and obedience. God moves his purpose forward through the people who serve him well. And I pray you serve him well today. God bless you.